They left for the airport without me. 7 tickets, 3 rooms, 1 forgotten passenger. I found the itinerary on the printer. When I texted Dad, he said, "We thought you backed out. You're so moody lately." I stayed silent. An hour later, my sister sent me a note left for her friends. "He's gonna flip when he sees the photos." I replied, "Enjoy." Then I canceled the €12,000 booking from my app, and at 6:30 a.m. my phone lit up. 37 missed calls. I, 29 M, woke up that Tuesday morning expecting chaos. 7 people in one house getting ready for a week in Santorini doesn't happen quietly. Instead, I found silence. The coffee maker still had yesterday's grounds. No suitcases cluttering the hallway. No one arguing over bathroom time. Just the hum of the printer spitting out boarding passes in the office downstairs. That's when I saw it. 7 tickets. 3 room confirmations. My name nowhere to be found. My stomach dropped as I read through the itinerary I'd booked 6 months ago. The family trip I'd saved for. The celebration for Dad's retirement that I'd organized down to the restaurant reservations. Everything was there except me. I grabbed my phone and fired off a text to Dad. "Where are you guys?" His response came 30 minutes later. "We thought you backed out. You're so moody lately." Moody? Right. Because asking them to contribute to groceries when they'd been staying at my place for 2 weeks made me moody. Because suggesting we split the trip costs instead of me covering everything made me difficult. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Enjoy the trip." An hour passed. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed with a message from my sister. She'd sent me a photo of a handwritten note, clearly meant for her friends. "He's gonna flip when he sees the photos. Can't wait to post everything." Finally, a drama-free vacation. My hands trembled as I typed back, "Enjoy." Then I opened the booking app. The €12,000 charge sat there in my recent transactions. Flights, hotels, rental cars, even the dinner reservations at that cliffside restaurant Dad had been excited about. All of it booked through my account, paid with my credit card, under my name. I hovered over the cancel button. This wasn't just about money. This was about 15 years of being the family ATM. Every birthday dinner I paid for. Every emergency loan that became a gift. Every time they needed something, and I delivered without question. My finger pressed cancel. The confirmation came immediately. Full refund processing. All reservations terminated. I set my phone on the counter and went back to my coffee. For the first time in weeks, the house felt peaceful. At 6:30 a.m., my phone exploded. 37 missed calls. Text messages flooding in faster than I could read them. Dad, Mom, my sister, my brother, even my cousin who barely talked to me except when he needed something. The first voicemail was Dad, his voice tight with panic. The hotel was refusing them entry. Their flights were canceled. They were stranded at the airport with 7 suitcases and nowhere to go. The second was my sister, crying. How could I do this to them? To the family? She'd already posted on social media about the trip. Her friends were expecting updates. The third was Mom, her voice sharp with anger. I was selfish, vindictive. This was supposed to be about family. I deleted them all without listening to the rest. My phone rang again. Dad. I watched it buzz against the granite countertop until it went to voicemail. Then my sister called. Same treatment. Then Dad again. By 7 a.m., they'd figured out I wasn't answering. The texts changed tone. Dad sent a long message about how we could work this out. He understood I was upset, but this wasn't the way to handle things. Family should stick together. My sister tried a different approach. She was sorry about the note. It was just a joke between friends. She didn't mean anything by it. Mom sent just 4 words, "Call me right now." I finished my coffee and got dressed for work. Tuesday morning traffic would be lighter without them cramming into my car, asking for rides to their various appointments around town. At the office, my coworkers asked about my vacation. Wasn't I supposed to be in Greece? I told them plans changed and buried myself in spreadsheets. The calls continued throughout the day. Voicemails piled up. Text messages filled my screen. Around lunch, my brother tried video calling. His face appeared briefly before I declined. He looked panicked, probably calculating how much 7 last-minute flights would cost. By afternoon, they'd shifted strategies again. Now it was about Dad's retirement. How much this trip meant to him. How I was ruining a once-in-a-lifetime celebration over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That's what they were calling it now. I Googled flights to Santorini. 7 tickets for today would run them about €8,000. assuming they could find seats. Hotels were booking at premium rates for last-minute arrivals. They were looking at double what I'd originally paid, minimum. My phone buzzed with a message from my cousin. "Dude, what happened?" "Everyone's freaking out." I typed back. "They left without me." Thought I'd backed out. His response was immediate. "That's messed up. But can't you just rebook everything?" I stared at his message. Even he assumed this was my responsibility to fix. My mess to clean up. My wallet to open. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I drove to work in silence. No radio, no podcasts, just the sound of morning traffic and my own thoughts. For the first time in months, nobody had asked me for money. Nobody needed a ride. Nobody expected me to solve their problems. At lunch, I turned my phone back on. 63 missed calls. The voicemails had shifted tone again. Now they were angry. Really angry. Dad's voice was cold. "You've made your point. This tantrum has gone far enough. We're family, and family doesn't abandon each other like this." My sister was sobbing. "Everyone's asking where the photos are." I had to delete my posts. "Do you know how embarrassing this is?" Mom was beyond angry. "Your father worked 35 years for this retirement. 35 years. And you're destroying it over what? Because we didn't wake you up?" My brother's message was different. "Look, I get why you're pissed. But they're stuck at some airport hotel paying €200 a night. Dad maxed out his credit card trying to book new flights. Can we just fix this?" I saved that last one and deleted the rest. That evening, I sat in my empty house and really looked around. The guest rooms where they'd been staying were still a mess. Towels on the floor, toiletries scattered across the bathroom counter, someone's dirty clothes in the hamper. They'd left for a vacation and couldn't even clean up after themselves. I spent the evening doing something I hadn't done in years. I cooked dinner for one person. I watched a movie I actually wanted to see. I went to bed at a reasonable hour without anyone asking for favors or money or rides. My phone stayed off. Update 1. Thursday morning brought a new development. My doorbell rang at 7 a.m. Through the window, I saw Dad's car in my driveway. He looked exhausted. 3 days of sleeping in airport hotels and scrambling for flights had aged him. When I opened the door, he didn't wait for an invitation. He walked straight into my kitchen and sat down at the table. Dad started talking immediately. They'd managed to get flights, but not together. Mom and my sister were on a connection through Amsterdam. He and my brother were flying direct, but not until Friday. They'd lost 2 days of the vacation already, and the hotel situation was a nightmare. He wanted to know what it would take to make this right. I made coffee and sat across from him. For the first time in our conversation, I didn't automatically offer to fix everything. Dad kept talking. He acknowledged that maybe they should have confirmed I was coming. Maybe they should have checked with me before leaving. But this response was disproportionate. Nuclear. I asked him if they'd ever actually planned to include me, or if I was just the bank account. His face changed. The question hit something he didn't want to examine. Dad insisted that wasn't fair. I was family. Of course they wanted me there. But I had been distant lately, and when I didn't show up that morning, they assumed I'd changed my mind. I reminded him about the grocery money. About asking them to contribute to utilities while they stayed in my house. About suggesting we split vacation costs instead of me funding everything. Dad got defensive. He said those requests had felt transactional, like I was keeping score in a family relationship. I asked him who paid for dinner last Sunday, and the Sunday before that, and every Sunday for the past 6 months. He couldn't answer. Dad tried a different approach. He talked about family loyalty, about how we'd always been there for each other, about how money shouldn't come between us. I asked him when he'd last been there for me. Not financially, actually been there. The silence stretched between us. Finally, Dad suggested we could work out a payment plan. They'd pay me back for the trip costs over time. We could rebook everything, maybe for next month. I told him the money wasn't the point anymore. His face reddened. He wanted to know what the point was then, what I hoped to accomplish by destroying the family. I wasn't destroying anything, I said. I was just done being taken for granted. Dad left without another word. Update 2. By weekend, the situation had evolved into something I hadn't expected. My sister had returned from the disastrous trip and was telling everyone who would listen about my betrayal. The story, according to her version, was that I'd sabotaged a family vacation out of spite. What she wasn't mentioning was the note about me flipping when I saw their photos, or the fact that they'd left without so much as a text message. My brother called Sunday night. Unlike the others, he didn't start with accusations. He asked if we could meet for coffee. Tuesday evening, We sat in a diner halfway between our apartments. My brother looked uncomfortable, like he was choosing his words carefully. He started by saying he understood why I was angry. The airport thing was messed up, and they should have handled it better. But he also said the family was falling apart over this, and maybe it was time to find a middle ground. I asked him what middle ground looked like. My brother suggested I apologize for canceling the trip, and they'd apologize for leaving without me. Everyone could move forward. I asked what I should apologize for exactly. He struggled with that. Eventually, he said I should apologize for the way I'd handled my anger, for not trying to work things out first. I reminded him that I'd texted Dad asking where everyone was. Dad's response was that I was too moody lately, and they assumed I'd backed out. My brother said Dad was just trying to save face. Everyone was embarrassed about the mix-up. Mix-up? Now it was a mix-up. I asked my brother if he thought it was a mix-up when my sister wrote that note about me flipping over their photos. If it was a mix-up when they booked 7 tickets and somehow missed that I wasn't on the manifest. He didn't have an answer for that either. My brother tried one more approach. He said regardless of who was right or wrong, I was the only one with the power to fix this. I had the money, the booking accounts, the ability to make everything okay again. I asked him why it was always my job to fix things. The question seemed to surprise him. He said it wasn't always my job, but in this case, I was the only one who could do it. I asked him to name one time in the past 5 years when someone else had fixed a family problem. One time when someone else had opened their wallet or their home or their schedule to make things work. My brother sat quietly for a long time. Then he said that was just how our family worked. I was good at handling logistics and finances, so naturally, those responsibilities fell to me. I asked him if he thought that was fair. He said fair wasn't the right word. It was just practical. I paid the check and left. Update 3. The phone call stopped after 3 weeks. The angry texts faded to occasional guilt trips, then nothing. My house stayed quiet except for the sounds I made. I didn't realize how much energy I'd been spending on other people's problems until I stopped. Suddenly, I had time to read books, to go to movies, to meet friends I'd neglected while managing family emergencies. My cousin was the first to reach out normally. He asked if I wanted to grab a beer, no agenda attached. We spent an evening talking about work, sports, everything except family drama. When he dropped me off, he said it seemed like I was doing better. I was. Mom tried once more in November. She called to say Dad's birthday was coming up, and maybe this would be a good time to patch things up. The family missed me. I asked her what they missed about me, specifically. She said they missed having me around. My presence at family dinners. My jokes. I asked if they missed me, or if they missed what I provided. Mom got quiet. Then she said that was a hurtful question. I told her it was an honest one. She hung up. December brought Christmas plans I wasn't included in. I found out through social media that they'd gathered at my sister's apartment. 7 people crammed into a 1-bedroom space because apparently that was better than admitting they'd made a mistake. The photos looked cramped and awkward. Nobody looked particularly happy. I spent Christmas with friends who'd invited me to their family dinner. Real conversation, shared costs, genuine appreciation for my presence. It was the best holiday I'd had in years. January marked 6 months since the airport incident. My bank account was healthier than it had been in a decade. My stress levels had dropped significantly. I'd started dating someone who didn't expect me to pick up every check or solve every problem. My phone rang on a Tuesday evening in late January. Dad's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Dad's voice was different. Smaller, somehow. He asked if we could talk. I asked what about. He said he'd been thinking about our conversation in my kitchen, about the questions I'd asked. He said maybe I'd had a point about some things. I waited. Dad told me they'd tried to plan a trip for Mom's birthday without me. Just the 6 of them. But when it came time to book flights and hotels, nobody wanted to coordinate everything. The group chat devolved into arguments about dates and costs and logistics. Eventually, they canceled the whole thing. He said it made him realize how much work I'd been doing behind the scenes for years. I asked if that was an apology. Dad said he was trying to apologize, but he wasn't sure how. He'd never had to before. That honesty caught me off guard. Dad asked if there was a way back from this. Not to how things were, but to something better. I told him I didn't know. But if there was, it would have to start with everyone acknowledging that what happened wasn't a misunderstanding or a mix-up. They'd deliberately excluded me and then tried to make it my fault. Dad was quiet for a long time. Then he said that was fair. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't reconciliation. But it was the first real conversation we'd had in 20 years. I told him I'd think about it. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet house and realized something had shifted. The anger that had carried me through 6 months was gone. In its place was something calmer but more permanent, the knowledge that I didn't need them the way I'd thought I did. Whether we found a way back to being family again, I'd be fine either way. And that, more than any revenge, felt like victory.